welcome to HITC Sport. Right. Remember Conor McGregor? You know, Ireland's most famous whiskey salesman, who hasn't been seen in a cage since getting his windpipe crushed like a pepperami last November. Well, apparently one of the leading stories in the papers this week is that he's apparently a massive Manchester United fan. I know what you're thinking.
Who the f*** cares?
Well, just wait, alright?
Conor McGregor opens up on his love for Manchester United, hailing outstanding Paul Pogba, phenomenal Cristiano Ronaldo, and why Zlatan Ibrahimovic is trying to be football's version of him.
Is that right?
When did you stop playing soccer?
When I realised it was for women, you know, I would rather fight.
Oh. Bit awkward.
I would rather fight.
You would rather fight? Funny, because aside from getting mauled inside 4 rounds last November, the only thing that man's been fighting against were phones, buses, and multiple court appearances.
Conor McGregor's passions in life may lie in UFC and becoming the world's #1 athlete.
I'll stop you right there. Passions in becoming the world's #1 athlete. Maybe at one point, but not now. Not when he's spending his spare time getting chucked out of nightclubs at 2 AM and collecting traffic charges as if they're goddamn Pokemon cards. I mean, I'm sure it was his ambition at one point, but not right now when he has more arrests than fight wins in the last 3 years. It's like saying that kid off Pokemon still has his heart set on becoming a Pokemon master in 2019, when in reality that kid would most likely be sleeping on the streets, probably having sold his now sex puppet Pikachu to feed his long-suffering heroin addiction. Anyway, let's read on.
Manchester United was my team. It was only the other day I came across wearing that infamous grey United jersey, which I bought with my communion money at 8 years of age.
Little did we know that fair-haired young lad with the smiley face would grow up to become best friends with Vladimir Putin.
I was attracted to the success and winning mentality of the club and people surrounded by United.
I grew up in Ireland at a time when Manchester United were winning everything and terrified of standing out from the crowd. I just adopted the same club as everyone else. Go Manchester! That is literally 80% of the Irish Man United fan base.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a special man. The Man United super sub. Player and manager. Insane!
Why does he sound like one of those tourists from southern Minnesota who've just been introduced to their first ever sport that didn't serve nachos and popcorn at half time? Being a player and manager isn't actually insane. It's actually the pretty normal career trajectory. Conor, it's actually more unusual for a manager not to have been a player first, but whatever.
You can feel the passion he has for this club and its history.
So, Man United fan, huh? Well, explain this one, McGregor. I'll rewind you back to that summer's eve in July 2017, when you dragged yourself out of a Liverpool house party looking like, let's just say you would have made Shane McGowan look sober. Although, to be honest, in that state, the man could have said the earth was flat and his feet were made of bacon, and nobody would bat at a f***ing eyelid.
Paul Pogba and Marcus Rashford have been particularly outstanding under him. They are young, confident and fearless athletes who believe in their abilities.
Alright, fair enough. Now on to McGregor versus Zlatan.
I respect Zlatan and his positive winning mentality mindset, but let's get this straight. There is only one Conor McGregor. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is trying to be the Conor McGregor of football. Good luck to him.
Well, alright, if you mean spending most of your time chasing an easy buck around Los Angeles doing all, then yeah, maybe. But if you really want to compare careers, lad, Zlatan was a 6-time league champion when you were still fixing sinks down the back at Dublin 4. Speaking of Zlatan, let's just see how he's getting on in the States. I bet he's loving life.
He's the new star of Los Angeles. How are you?
You can just tell by his reaction. Zlatan is thinking, fuck, not one of these TMZ street rats. Can't I have a moment alone with the fucking kids? Which I'm sure is what MJ probably used to say to the maids at the Neverland Ranch.
I mean, how are the fans receiving you? Are you enjoying Los Angeles? I'm enjoying it, thank you.
He might be enjoying Los Angeles, but clearly he wishes the TMZ reporters would crawl up their own ass and die. To be fair, it must be tough being one of those sycophantic journalists, and when a YouTuber is using air quotes on the word journalist, you know you f***ed it, lad. Whose job description it is to stalk and annoy anyone with a bit of clout over 500,000 Instagram followers.
Hey Zlatan, how you doing, man? Is it hard watching the World Cup, not being in it?
Look how pissed off he is by this question. This is essentially like someone on Twitter asking,
Hey Irish guy, are you annoyed that Declan Rice is now chosen to play for England instead of Ireland?
no, I'm f***ing delighted. Anyway, despite what McGregor might have said in the past about football,
Football is for pussies!
Conor McGregor is a phenomenon that has driven himself head first into this sport, whether he likes it or not. Like footballers imitating his celebration, or simply showing their support for him on social media. Although one lad at Brentford got dropped from the squad for the heinous crime of writing "what a guy" on one of McGregor's Instagram posts. I'm guessing Dean Smith was more of a Mayweather fan. He's also gotten into the business of sending inspirational good luck messages to players before international tournaments.
What's happening, Pogba? I just want to get on and say best of luck in the World Cup final tomorrow, my brother.
Christ's sake, the man earns more than most of the footballers on the planet. He's even become buddies with Cristiano Ronaldo. They're actually quite similar individuals though. Really driven, hard-working athletes. I think their friendship could actually last a long time wherever they end up. hopefully not prison. But not just football, McGregor's even getting stuck into the American football, having become #1 celebrity fan of the Dallas Cowboys. And then he messed it all up by trying to throw the pigskin with his throw resembling that of a 9-year-old girl. Anyway, moving on from McGregor, what else happened this week? Poor old Thibaut Courtois. Said nobody. Just over 6 months ago, that man probably thought he was in heaven. He'd forced his way to London, got the dream move to Real Madrid, to live in the same city as his kids. And now, after a disastrous run of form where he still hasn't mastered the art of closing his f***ing legs, a skill that seems to have eluded every cast member of Geordie Shore, to be fair, rescued from the Europa League and welcomed into the arms of the European champions. Courtois probably thought his life had peaked, but now Madrid want to package him off in a swap deal to Man United. It's a bit like if when Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie adopted all those kids from war-torn, ravaged countries, rescuing them from squalor and starvation. And then 6 months later they just decide to put them back where they came from, tossing them back into the piss-stained shack as soon as they find another bunch of kids who they like even better. It would be a bit shit on poor old Shiloh, Zahara and the other one. Now, admittedly, comparing the goddamn Europa League to an orphanage off the east coast of fucking Namibia is still a bit of a stretch, but you get my point all the same. Will De Gea move to Real Madrid? Listen, he still hasn't signed that contract at Old Trafford. He was a busted fax machine away from moving there 4 years ago, and Zidane seems like he'd rather shove a broken phone box in goal than trust Courtois with the fucking gloves. So, yeah, maybe lads. Another player could be on his way to Madrid, Eden Hazard. But lads, we've known that for years now. Even Chelsea fans must accept he is on his way. It's not like they're in any real position of strength here. For Christ's sake, they're floundering outside the top 4. They're on course for a second stint in the Europa League. Oh, and they've also been banned from strengthening their squad for 2 years. So have fun with juggling Tammy Abraham and an aging Olivier Giroud up front for the next 2 years. This is essentially like a man trying to keep his model girlfriend around after he's just spent the previous 2 years drinking petrol, strangling his cholesterol, and sleeping on the couch. Hazard is turning 29 next season, right? It's now or never, and I'm sorry, but he's better than 4-0 to Bournemouth. Anyway, Chelsea have a 4-man shortlist to replace Maurizio Sarri, apparently.
England assistant Steve Holland is an interim to then focus on 4 names on the shortlist: Nuno Espirito Santo, Laurent Blanc, Massimiliano Allegri, and John Terry. Gazzetta dello Sport.
If anyone thinks Chelsea have a pig's whisker of convincing Massimiliano Allegri to joining a transfer ban, then they better slap their head off the kitchen sink a few times. Also, I don't know how Terry is really doing at Villa, but considering they've only conceded a few less goals than bottom place Ipswich Town, I'm guessing not great. Laurent Blanc is an uninspiring coach, while Santo, yeah, I mean, he's doing a great job with Wolves, but it does kind of remind me of last summer's story.
Slavica Jokanovic would be great as Chelsea manager, says Pedro. June 2018.
Good Christ. Anyway, Callum Hudson-Odoi was called up to the England squad, despite having never started a Premier League game. Here he is, looking pretty delighted with himself, posing next to some sort of snake he must have found at the zoo. It's a good England squad, to be fair, although the fact that Chris Smalling has once again been left out for Michael Keane is still a bit confusing. I mean, don't get me wrong, Smalling is not the best defender by any means, but he's playing in the Champions League. Then again, we're living in a world where Kurt Zouma has just made the France squad ahead of Aymeric Laporte. So clearly, bang average centre halves who can't defend a corner are clearly in fashion. Looking at the Ireland squad is enough to make me want to rip the eyeballs from my f***ing head. Josh Cullen, Glenn Whelan, Aidan O'Brien. I'm sorry, but if you're a striker who scored 8 goals in your last 78 championship games, you have no business being in any international squad. But then again, with all due respect, it doesn't really matter who we pick. We could find 11 lads down a local post office at the backyards of County Wicklow, throw them on the pitch, and they should have enough to beat goddamn Gibraltar. And finally, apparently Ross Barkley was slipped by a coin on his return to Goodison Park last week. I get that he's not the most popular man in Merseyside right now, but really, chucking money at one of the richest scousers on the planet, it kind of defeats the purpose. That's essentially like throwing bottles of fake tan at Donald Trump or chucking STDs at Charlie Sheen. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Anyway, that's the end of the video, lads. If you have enjoyed, don't forget to give it a like, share, and subscribe. Instagram there, Twitter there, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while. Got 1 orders online though, had mine a week, still not opened, haha. I can only assume someone cracked you around the head with that before you were able to type out that ludicrous message, because it is filled with such grammatical nonsense. A proper Irish whiskey for a proper Irish animal. And that is the proper flag of the proper Ivory Coast, you proper f***ing idiots. Celebrating my birthday with only the best by promoting an Irish whiskey. What's that in the back? Oh, you are dead to me. Naming a stranger on the internet.